The winter sunlight streaming through the windows of my shop, blooming grace, gently illuminated the colorful array of flowers. While the streets of Newton were blanketed in a silvery world of snow, my shop had become a warm, spring-like sanctuary where local residents found solace. I was arranging bouquets with practiced hands, despite being 9 months pregnant. With Valentine's Day approaching, orders for red roses were coming in one after another. Selecting flowers, trimming stems, and tying ribbons, I completed each bouquet while channeling the sender's emotions. This work was my pride and joy. The shop was filled to bursting with seasonal flowers, tulips, anemones, and ranunculus. Though the cold still lingered outside, spring was already beginning to take shape within these walls. My regular customers would look worriedly at my growing belly, but they always had kind words about how my flowers brought color to their lives. "Mom, I'm home. These flowers smell so nice." My son Oliver had returned from school and was sniffing the freesias displayed in the shop. Every time I saw his innocent smile, I couldn't help but feel blessed to be a mother. "Hey, when my sister's born, let's put these flowers in the hospital room. I'm sure she'll love them." Oliver had been eagerly awaiting his sister's arrival for the past few months. Every night, it had become his routine to place his hand on my belly and talk to the baby. "I can't wait to meet you. Let's play together." Watching him whisper such loving words to his yet unseen sister made my heart swell with emotion. My husband Michael kept busy as an executive at a real estate development company. Recently, with the launch of a new project, he'd been coming home later than usual. Still, he always made time on weekends for us to attend church together. Sunday service at Grace Episcopal Church had become an essential part of our family's routine. Our church community had become our emotional anchor in this town. In particular, many people warmly watched over Oliver's growth in Sunday school. Last Sunday, the women's group surprised me with a baby shower. When they presented me with a handmade baby quilt and shared their heartfelt words, I found myself overcome with tears. Having Dr. Sarah, my longtime friend and an obstetrician at Newton Wellesley Hospital, promise to ensure a safe delivery was also a great comfort. With over 25 years of experience, she was a highly respected physician in the area. Having her as my attending doctor gave me incredible peace of mind. 1 week until my due date. Every day, Oliver would come up with new name suggestions for his sister. Emma, Sophia, Grace. They were all lovely names, but I hadn't decided yet. Michael was pushing for Lily, saying it would be perfect for me as a florist. Indeed, Lily was a beautiful name, evoking the pure and delicate image of white petals. But I still wanted to explore other possibilities. The preparations for the birth were steadily progressing. As I carefully prepared each tiny piece of clothing, swaddling blankets, and diapers, my heart swelled with anticipation for our new family member. I had finished packing everything needed for the hospital bag. Of course, Oliver and I had already chosen flowers to decorate the hospital room, a small bouquet of pale pink roses and baby's breath. The gentle colors seemed to express our feelings about welcoming our new family member. At night, while putting Oliver to bed, I said a prayer in my heart. I prayed for his sister to be born safely and healthy, and for our family's happiness to grow even more. With mixed feelings of excitement for my unborn child and anxiety about the delivery, I drifted off into a peaceful sleep. The contractions began in the middle of the night. As I tried to turn over, a dull pain shot through my lower abdomen. The clock showed just past 2 a.m., 3 days before my due date. The pain started mild, similar to menstrual cramps, but gradually intensified. Michael, Michael. I woke my husband sleeping beside me. He showed a momentary look of surprise but quickly regained his composure. A light sweat had formed on his forehead. "It's all right, Diana. Take deep breaths. Let's time the contractions." While timing the intervals between contractions, Michael called the hospital. Meanwhile, I focused on controlling my breathing. The pain came and went like waves, with the intervals gradually becoming shorter. Cold sweat was seeping into my back, making my nightgown cling to my skin. Oliver must have woken up from the noise, as he quietly opened the bedroom door and peeked in. He stood there in his blue pajamas, clutching his large teddy bear. "Mom, are you okay? Does it hurt?" I managed my best smile for my son, who wore a worried expression. "I'm fine, Oliver. It's time to meet your sister. Grandma will be here soon." We didn't need to call an ambulance. Michael drove us to Newton Wellesley Hospital. We arranged for Oliver to stay with our neighbors, the Browns, who gladly took him in. Mrs. Brown smiled warmly as she gently embraced Oliver in his pajamas. "We'll bring him to the hospital first thing in the morning. It'll be a wonderful morning surprise." Michael's car quietly drove through the street lit by street lamps. At each red light, he would check on me, though there was something unsettled about his manner. I also noticed him frequently checking his mobile phone. When we arrived at the hospital, Dr. Sarah was already waiting. Her presence in her white coat gave me great comfort. Nurse Rachel was also there. I knew she worked at this hospital. She was Michael's college classmate, but I hadn't expected her to be on night duty as my nurse. "It's been a while, Rachel." When I greeted her, she showed a slightly surprised expression. Her usual vivacity seemed subdued, and she appeared somewhat tense. "It has been a while, Diana. I'll be taking care of you tonight." Her voice sounded uneasy, and her eyes wouldn't settle, darting around. But at that moment, I was too preoccupied with the intensifying contractions to think much about it. Once in the delivery room, everything progressed rapidly. The stark white walls and the mechanical sounds of medical equipment made everything feel more real. Dr. Sarah's calm voice guided me through it. Michael stayed by my side throughout, holding my hand. However, his hand was unusually cold and seemed to tremble occasionally. "Almost there, Diana. I can see the baby's head." I could hear Dr. Sarah's voice. Though my consciousness was growing hazy from pain and exhaustion, I summoned my last reserves of strength. The delivery room's fluorescent lights seemed blindingly bright. Nurse Rachel wiped the sweat from my forehead, but her movements seemed unsettled. "One more push. Give it everything you've got. Then, the baby's first cry echoed through the delivery room. At that moment, I thought I saw Nurse Rachel and Michael exchange glances. But perhaps that was just my exhausted mind playing tricks on me. Congratulations. It's a healthy baby girl. Dr. Sarah's voice sounded distant as I stared at the ceiling, completely exhausted. The baby was quickly taken to the treatment room, with Nurse Rachel accompanying them. Her departing figure seemed unusually hurried. After being moved to a private room, Michael went home to bring Oliver. During that time, I fell into a light sleep. Outside the window, dawn was gradually beginning to color the sky. When I awoke, soft morning light filled the hospital room. The light filtering through the white curtains announced the start of a new day. Soon after, there was a knock, and the door opened. "Mom!" Oliver came running in, dressed in his weekend blue shirt and black pants, his hair neatly combed. Michael followed behind him. Then Nurse Rachel entered, carrying the baby. Her expression was as rigid as a mask. "Here's your little girl." Rachel gently transferred the baby into my arms. As I felt the weight of this tiny life, tears welled up in my eyes. My child with her rosy skin. The unique scent of a newborn baby tickled my nose. "Oliver, come here. Let's meet your sister." When I called out, Oliver slowly walked to the bedside. His eyes should have been filled with curiosity and excitement. However, the moment he peered at his sister's face, Oliver's expression froze. His small body began to tremble slightly. "This is..." A trembling voice. Anxious eyes. My son's behavior was clearly different from usual. His eyes looked as if they were afraid of something. "This isn't my sister." Oliver's words fell into the quiet hospital room. At that moment, I saw Nurse Rachel's hands trembling slightly. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Michael suddenly raised his voice in an angry tone. The volume was disproportionate for a hospital room, and Oliver instinctively stepped back. I couldn't hide my confusion at my son's strange behavior and my husband's intense reaction. "Oliver, honey, what do you mean?" In response to my question, Oliver showed a frightened expression. At that time, Dr. Sarah, who had been checking charts in the corner of the room, furrowed her brow as if she had noticed something concerning. There was clear unease in her expression. Nurse Rachel left the room quickly without saying a word. Her gait had lost its usual grace. Michael also excused himself, citing a work call, but there was something like panic visible in his retreating back. As I held the baby in my arms, a small anxiety began to grow in my heart. Something felt off. Like seeing something through a fog, there was a vague, unsettling sensation. But at that time, I couldn't yet identify what it was. A week had passed since leaving the hospital. On a snowy February afternoon, I watched my baby. In the heated room, my child with her rosy skin seemed unsettled as she slept. There was something off about every feeding time. Each time I held her, there was an unfamiliar sensation that I couldn't quite place. She often turned her face away as if refusing breast milk. Even when I brought my breast to her mouth, she desperately tried to turn away. Even after switching to formula, she wouldn't drink well. When offered the bottle, she would look at it as if it were something foreign. Her weight gain was slow, and the pediatrician suggested continued observation. The words, "the weight gain is too low considering the birth weight," weighed heavily on my mind. The daily weight measurements had become a ritual that only increased my anxiety. A family photo taken right after the birth hung on the living room wall. In that photo, Oliver was the only one not smiling. That reality remained unchanged. Oliver continued to avoid any contact with his sister. When he came home from school, he would go straight to his room, and when the baby cried, he would make gestures as if covering his ears. His once bright smile had disappeared, and he began having nightmares. His teacher even contacted me to say, "He seems less energetic at school." "Oliver, would you help Mommy think of a name for your sister?" "I still haven't decided." When I called out to my son doing homework in the living room, he stopped holding his pencil. His gaze slowly shifted from his math workbook to me. "Mom, she's not my sister." A trembling voice. The same reaction as when he first met her in the hospital room. Oliver's eyes held a mixture of anxiety and fear. Perhaps this child's intuition was trying to tell us something important. Michael's behavior was also concerning. Using work as an excuse, his return times were getting even later. Even on weekends, he was rarely home, citing emergency meetings. Though he occasionally held the baby, his gestures were unnatural, and he seemed to avoid even making eye contact. Sometimes I could hear him talking on the phone in the middle of the night. Once, when I went downstairs to get water from the kitchen, I stopped at voices leaking from the living room. "It's fine, no one has noticed, everything is going according to plan." Such ominous words disappeared into the darkness. As I looked through the mother-child handbook, something caught my attention. While checking the birth records, pregnancy records, and ultrasound photos, something felt wrong. The birth characteristics should have noted small birthmark on right cheek, but the current baby had no such mark. During these anxious days, I received a sudden call from Dr. Sarah. The phone rang, breaking the afternoon quiet. "Diana, I'm sorry, but could we do some additional tests on the baby? If possible, tomorrow." The doctor's voice lacked its usual calmness. There was an urgency to it. "Is something wrong?" I found some concerning points while checking the birth records. I'd rather discuss the details in person. Right after hanging up the phone, Michael returned home earlier than scheduled. When I told him about the tests, his expression immediately darkened. I could see the color drain from his face. "We don't need such tests." An unusually strong tone. The sound of him hitting the table echoed through the living room. Oliver ran out from his room and stood behind me as if hiding. "It's for the baby's sake. Just a precautionary test." Dr. Sarah is concerned too. "I've already decided. No tests. Don't talk about this anymore." Michael's abnormal reaction made my anxiety grow even stronger. That night, he spent a long time on the phone with someone. Though he kept his voice down, his irritation was palpable. The next day, I visited the hospital alone. Dr. Sarah invited me into her office with a solemn expression. Snow could be seen falling outside the window. Actually, there's something very concerning. The doctor carefully chose her words while looking down at her documents. While checking the delivery records, I found several major inconsistencies. First, there are signs that the birth weight records were altered. Also, the records of the newborn's distinctive birthmark completely disappeared partway through. My heart leaped at those words. The coffee cup in my hands trembled slightly. Additionally, there are unnatural points in the night shift nursing records. There are several places where Nurse Rachel's records differ from her usual writing style. We also discovered there was a 15-minute gap between the nursery entry/exit records and the actual surveillance camera footage. The doctor continued, moving her mouse while facing the computer screen. I also checked the security camera footage. There were concerning scenes in the footage from the nursery right after the birth. Nurse Rachel's actions clearly deviated from normal procedures. The doctor paused there for a moment. She let out a deep sigh and gently held my hand. At that moment, the examination room door opened. Without a knock, suddenly, there stood Nurse Rachel. Her face was pale, and her hands were visibly shaking. Her makeup was smeared, and there were dark circles under her eyes. Rachel began speaking in a trembling voice. "I can't lie anymore. I'll tell you everything." Her confession was a long story that went back 5 years. It began when Michael and Rachel reunited at a hospital charity party. The two former college classmates spent that night reminiscing about old times. Rachel was working as a nurse while struggling with massive debt from her father's business failure. Michael took advantage of her vulnerable position. "I'll help you repay your debt." Rachel found salvation in Michael's whispered words. That was her first step toward ruin. Michael's plan was meticulous. It started as a simple affair. However, when Rachel's pregnancy was discovered, his true nature began to emerge. Michael had an obsession with having a male heir. When he learned that his child with me would be a girl, he began formulating a terrible plan. "We'll switch the babies during delivery." Rachel recreated Michael's words with a trembling voice. From the moment he learned of her pregnancy, Michael had begun careful preparations. First, he arranged for Rachel to be assigned to the obstetrics ward night shift. Using hospital relationships, he had the shifts adjusted to match my expected delivery date. Next, he planned the procedure for falsifying records. He obtained passwords for the electronic medical records and prepared to modify the birth records. There were also serious flaws in the nursery's security. There was minimal staff during the night shift, and there were blind spots in the surveillance cameras. Though normally staffed by 2 people, sometimes it would be reduced to 1 due to staff shortages. Michael was well aware of these vulnerabilities in the hospital system. "But why did you decide to confess?" Dr. Sarah asked. It was Oliver's words. Tears welled up in Rachel's eyes. That child's pure intuition stirred my conscience. At that moment, the examination room door opened, and police investigators entered. They had already detained Michael at his workplace. The investigation was progressing at a surprising speed. The investigation chief, Detective Yamada, explained. Actually, when they received the report from Dr. Sarah, an internal investigation into Michael was already underway. His suspicious money movements. Regular payments to Rachel. Suspicious contact with hospital staff. Everything had been meticulously recorded. When we analyzed the security camera footage, we found decisive evidence. The nursery right after delivery. Footage of Rachel holding 2 babies. And after a 15-minute gap, the movement of a baby that didn't match the records. Everything had been captured. Furthermore, the investigation revealed problems with the hospital's systems. Night shift staffing, security system management, record verification procedures. Various issues came to light. Michael's interrogation revealed more detailed truths. As an executive in the real estate company, he had been involved in the hospital's new construction plans. He used that position to obtain internal information. He even knew the blind spots in the security system. However, there was one miscalculation in the plan. That was Oliver's existence. A child's pure intuition had surpassed the adult's calculations. During the few days waiting for the DNA test results, I was tossed by intense waves of emotion. Rachel's baby was also a being I had loved as my own child for a week. My heart was torn between my feelings for that child and my desire to recover my real child. The police, viewing the situation seriously, established a special investigation headquarters. As a medical malpractice case, an unprecedented scale of investigation unfolded. Interviewing hospital staff, examining records, analyzing security camera footage. The investigators worked day and night to uncover the truth. The media reported extensively day after day. The shocking baby switch case, blind spots in medical care, medical professional betrays trust. While headlines danced across pages, the hospital held an apologetic press conference. The hospital director's voice trembled. As a medical institution, an unacceptable situation has occurred. We sincerely apologize to the victims. As preventive measures, the hospital promised major systemic reforms. Strengthening nursery surveillance, renovating the electronic medical record system, thorough staff education. However, it would take a long time to restore lost trust. The prosecutors carefully built their case and indicted Michael and Rachel. During the trial, the full extent of the incident was revealed. Michael's careful planning, Rachel's inner conflict, and the flaws in the hospital's system. The defendant Michael Chapman is hereby sentenced to 5 years in prison. The defendant Rachel Wilson is sentenced to 3 years in prison, suspended for 5 years. The reasons for Michael's prison sentence included the high level of premeditation and the despicable nature of using his position. Rachel, on the other hand, received a suspended sentence due to her voluntary confession and the strong element of coercion recognized in her case. The reunion with my real child was an emotional scene. The baby being protected at Rachel's mother's house was a lovely girl with a small birthmark on her right cheek. The moment I held her, my heart cried out that this was surely my child. The DNA tests scientifically proved that certainty. Dr. Sarah quietly announced, "There's no doubt. This is your real daughter." Oliver showed his first genuine smile when he met his real sister. "See, this is my sister." I couldn't stop my tears at those words. A month after the incident, I made a new decision. I decided to meet with Rachel's baby, the boy I had raised for a week. Though he was Michael and Rachel's child, he was innocent. I couldn't help but worry about his future in the infant home. In the visiting room bathed in spring sunlight, we three began exploring a new form of connection. One August morning, I was replacing the shop sign. The words, "Blooming Grace," gleamed in the morning sun. I had thought about adding "new" to it but decided to leave it as is. Perhaps a new beginning doesn't always require changing something. Now, 6 months after the incident, our lives are moving forward slowly but surely. "Mom," Emily smiled. Oliver's joyful voice comes from the back of the shop. My daughter, who had been sleeping in her crib, smiled at her brother's face. We finally named her Emily Grace Chapman. Grace was taken from the name of the church that supported us. It was a name chosen with hope and gratitude. The flower shop had become busier than before. After the incident, people in the community consciously chose to shop at my store. The phone rings with orders, and delivery vehicles come and go. Seasonal flowers adorn the shop, healing hearts. On Saturday afternoons, I chat with customers while making bouquets. Everyone subtly shows their concern for us. Though they don't directly mention the incident, they offer warm words like, "Your children are growing so well," or "Your shop is always filled with such beautiful flowers." After Sunday service, someone always speaks to us in Grace Episcopal Church's hall. The church community continues to provide unwavering support even after the incident. They help watch Oliver in Sunday school, volunteer to babysit Emily, and sometimes even help with housework. God has not abandoned us. The pastor's words from the pulpit one day still resonate in my heart. Indeed, even in darkness, light was always there. Oliver's recovery was remarkable. His grades at school improved, and his bright smile returned. His teacher reported, "He's become so lively, like a different person." His expression is especially proud when he takes care of his sister. "Come on, Emily. Let's go for a walk." On holidays, Oliver insists on pushing the stroller. Our daily routine has become taking walks to the nearby park, the three of us together. Emily is growing well. She nurses well, and her weight gain is steady. Though she still cries often at night, that's a sign of a healthy baby. The pediatrician gave her a clean bill of health, saying, "She's growing into a very healthy child." Meanwhile, Michael had begun serving his prison sentence. 5 years of imprisonment. Several letters have come from him, but I haven't found the courage to open them yet. The envelopes remain in my desk drawer. I think I'll read them someday when the time is right. But not yet. Rachel received a suspended sentence and is now recuperating at her parents' home. Her baby, the boy I cared for a week, I heard is in the process of being adopted. Sometimes I think about him. I can't help but hope he's growing up happily somewhere. Newton Wellesley Hospital had undergone major systemic reforms. Security in the nursery was significantly strengthened, with the introduction of 24-hour surveillance cameras, biometric authentication systems, complete digitization of nursing records, and various other measures. Dr. Sarah plays a central role in these reforms. We will never let the same mistake happen again. The doctor's determination is firm, and she's also working hard to establish new training programs. Her figure symbolizes the hospital's collective will to restore trust in medical care. The impact on the local community was significant. Triggered by this incident, neighboring hospitals also began reviewing their newborn management systems. Though media attention has decreased, awareness of medical safety has definitely increased. Sometimes, my shop receives letters from people who have experienced similar harm. Your courage inspired us. Thank you for revealing the truth. I write back to such words. By sharing our experiences and supporting each other, we heal little by little. Looking out the window while arranging flowers, the summer sunlight turns the sunflowers in front of the shop golden. Next to them, Oliver is explaining sunflowers to Emily. Look, it's like the sun, isn't it? Emily, grow up bright like this too. Watching the siblings smile, I realize that our new life has truly begun. The scars may not fade easily. But carrying them with us, we're moving forward one step at a time. Outside the shop, autumn winds were beginning to blow. The flowers changed their appearance with the passing seasons. But I believe that our family's bonds will continue unchanged, forever.